Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Stevie O'Brien, lawyer, as well as government and public policy expert with McMillan. Stevie, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Stevie, I really appreciate the conversation today because you and I spoke after Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, announced his resignation back in January. There was an election in Canada's Liberal Party over the weekend to replace him. Mark Carney won in a landslide victory, making him Canada's new Prime Minister. So to start off the conversation, who exactly is Mark Carney?
Mark Carney has been a figure in Canadian political scene for a very long time. But never actually been a politician. He was governor of the Bank of Canada in 2008, sort of steering the country successfully through the financial crisis at the time. He went on then to be the governor of the Bank of England, steering the British economy through the very tumultuous Brexit period. He's got a CV of a strong economist, banker. He's worked with conservative prime ministers and with liberal prime ministers. He's been in public service and he's been in the private sector. And so he's the one that Canadians think, or at least the Liberal Party thinks, is the best person to steer Canada through these sort of tumultuous times with tariffs and strained Canada-US relations.
I wanted to touch on that because those are two big things on his resume that stuck out to me. Governor of the Bank of Canada during the financial crisis in 2008, and also helping England during the Brexit chaos there. So people are confident that he is able to meet the moment really because of the tariff situation with the United States. Is that what you're saying?
That's largely it. I think there's been a surge of popularity for the Liberal Party ever since Donald Trump has started talking about Canada as the 51st state or talking of and implementing tariffs. It has created sort of a national unity movement in Canada, which has benefited the Liberal Party the greatest, who before Justin Trudeau stepped down was probably the lowest they had ever been in the polls, and now is neck and neck with the Conservatives. And we anticipate there will be a general election called very soon.
I know that since President Trump announced the back and forth tariffs on Canada, Canadians have been really angry with America, booing during the national anthem, some provinces taking American alcohol off of the shelves. 2 months ago, you told me that Liberals were probably polling at the lowest in modern history. So now, is Donald Trump to blame or to the Liberal benefit inserting them in the polls?
Well, during the convention on Sunday, where we elected Carney to the Liberal leadership position, a former Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien, made the comment that we should give Donald Trump the Order of Canada for uniting Canadians across the country so quickly and with such force. I don't think we've seen this sign of sort of domestic unity in a long time. Provinces working together, Canadians coming together across all stripes. And it is partially because of the tariffs, but I'd say the bigger piece is the sort of comments about Governor of Canada, the 51st state comments. These have really riled up Canadian nationalism, and threats to sovereignty or talks of annexation have really pulled the country together.
And it's really interesting because this seemingly has come out of left field, at least from an American perspective. Canada and America are allies, long allies, we're neighbors. There's no appetite in lawmakers that I've talked to, voters that I've talked to in Canada joining the United States. But President Trump, as you said, called Canada the 51st state, called Justin Trudeau the Prime Minister, governor. And I want to read you some of what Carney has said. He's called Trump a bully before. He's vowed that Canada will never be part of the United States. And this is what he said over the weekend. Quote, "We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake. In trade, as in hockey, Canada will win." So when you're looking at these remarks, when you're looking at Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his tenuous relationship with President Trump in recent weeks, how do you think Carney's relationship with President Trump is going to look?
So another thing that Carney said over the weekend is that you need to recognize the things you can change and the things you can't change. And he said specifically, we cannot change Donald Trump. He is going to continue to be who he is. But what Canada can do is look to our own economy and ways to strengthen it. We can find new trade partners who may be more reliable, and we can focus on building different export avenues for our energy, for our oil. And I think that that's what we can do. He will come to the table with a plan. He's a smart man. He will be able to negotiate a new trade agreement, but he's not going to back down. And I think these tariffs are probably here for a while.
And do Canadians like that the Prime Minister isn't going to back down? Because President Trump last week slapped tariffs on both Mexico and Canada. Canada responded immediately. Mexico said they were going to wait, announced their response over the weekend. Just days later, President Trump then announced he was pausing tariffs for most goods, the goods that fall under the USMCA agreement. And this week, Ontario placed a 25% tariff on electricity exports to a handful of U.S. states. So is that something that's popular in Canada, these swift reactions?
Yes, I think Canadians are expecting their politicians to stand up in this. And again, it's not just because of the tariffs. It's the threat to sovereignty. If somebody was threatening sort of the existence of the United States as a country going forward, you could imagine that that would really bring people together. And they may even be able to withstand some sort of economic hardship if it meant that they were standing up for the existence of their country. And I think that that's what we're seeing here. And that's also one of the differences with Mexico.
I think something when I've talked to lawmakers about President Trump, even Republicans say, sometimes President Trump, we don't exactly like the way he speaks. Sometimes he speaks hyperbolically. Are Canadians taking that seriously when he says Governor Trudeau, when he says we're making Canada the 51st state? Do Canadians see that as a serious threat?
So back in December when it first came up, the Canadian government thought it was a joke. But it has come up over and over again to the point where Canada really does see this as an existential threat to our sovereignty. There is very big concern. Politicians are calling it dark days, a bigger crisis than COVID. And, they're putting into place support programs for workers, doing massive amounts of diplomatic outreach to other allies. And yes, Canadians see it as America, or at least this administration, not average Americans, but that this administration is coming after our energy, our oil, our minerals, and our water.
Mark Carney, as you said, is a political outsider largely, is someone who worked at Goldman Sachs for part of his career, kind of reminiscent of Donald Trump in the way that he is a political outsider, now is steering the ship in your country, so to speak. So do you think that with his leadership, it gives Canada and America the ability to reset and reset our relationship with one another?
I certainly hope so. And I hope there's a willingness on both sides not to just be entrenched where we're at. I think what Carney said also over the weekend in his acceptance speech was that, Canada wants to feel some respect from the United States. And again, that's not on a tariff piece. It's with respect to those comments of annexation. And so I think until those comments are put to rest, things will remain tense. But I hope that both men and both countries can come together and forge a new relationship forward that works for everybody.
It's really interesting because just 2 months ago when you and I were talking, we were talking about a poll that was taken in December about the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, really trouncing Trudeau in the polls. It seemed like the status quo worldwide, that there was a conservative movement. Now, with President Trump saying that Canada could be a state, calling the Prime Minister governor, threatening these tariffs, going back and forth with that, the Liberal Party seems to be surging a bit. As you said, there's this national unity. There's a general election coming up in Canada. What are people saying about that? Do you think Liberals and Mark Carney have a shot here?
For the first time in a couple of years, I would say yes. The Liberals have been trailing the polls we talked about it in early January, but that's been a trend for the last 2 years. They haven't pulled this high since 2021. And I think what we're seeing is the progressive side, because in Canada we have more than two parties. So we also have other parties that are further left. So all of the progressive parties are kind of coming together and seeing this, standing up to Donald Trump as something essential to our sovereignty and our sort of existence as a country. But also, on people on the farther right are moving to the Liberal Party because they think that Mark Carney is this sort of serious man that is needed in this moment. Pierre Poilievre has that populist, not as very reminiscent of Trump's style of politicking. And when that's the sort of what you're confronting, that doesn't resonate as well as sort of a national unity cry when you sound a lot like the person you're supposed to be standing up to.
I know, at least from where I sit in America, there's whiplash when it comes to these tariffs, especially last week. I talked to guests when they were on. I talked to guests when they were off. At one point, I had an interview and the tariff policies switched. It feels like a spigot going on and off, on and off. I'm sure when it's you sitting in Canada, you feel the same way. So what are you looking out for next between now and the next tariff tit for tat, between now and the general election? I can imagine it's a million things.
Yeah, I think we are waiting for, anything and everything, and focusing on what we can control and not on what we can't control. So focusing on expanding our trading network, shoring up our other relationships, but also hopefully working towards a solution. But yeah, it's been whiplash completely. I even think this morning, just before we started talking, the steel tariff was doubled against Canada. So things are very volatile. That could change again in a day. We don't. It's very, very fluid and a complete roller coaster.
And to that point, it seems like the tariff was changed on a dime. The markets certainly aren't reacting favorably to these tariffs. Is there a sense of how Canadians want to see someone negotiate with Donald Trump? Is there a sense of how you can negotiate with Donald Trump? Because I know that they want someone to be firm. I know from an American political perspective, Donald Trump doesn't want to appear weak. So how do you negotiate with that?
I think it's going to be coming down, much like in Trump's first administration, getting down to the nitty gritty of what are the trade issues? What are the pain points? What can we do to make sure both sides are economically prosperous? I think we really should be working and thinking North America supply chains writ large and sort of shoring us up as a continental sort of defense and friendly allies. When we know that there are many other countries that don't wish us well, we should be working together because Canada and America have been friends for a very long time and hopefully will be for a very long time into the future.
And to that point, based on you in Canada right now, based on your conversations with Canadians, is there a sense that this relationship is permanently fractured, or is this just a pain point? We're going through a growing pain, and America and Canada can be allies and friends once again?
I think that remains to be seen. How long these tariffs remain in place, how long the conversation around annexation is happening, will make it very difficult to be friends. There are other allied pieces, defense spending. There are pain points on both sides. So I think there's a path back to friendship, but I think it's going to remain to be seen on whether and how this escalates and how both countries can sort of look at the larger picture and come forward with a trade solution.
Well, Stevie, I certainly always appreciate your perspective, especially you being in Canada, me being in America. Thank you so, so much. And you are welcome back anytime. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.